Steve Gamache here with another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review. This time we're looking at the Nishida Shidogami #1 polished Santoku 180mm knife. So this is their polished line. Very similar to their other line, similar geometry and grinds and so on. So the core steel, as mentioned, is a Shidogami or white paper #1 reactive high carbon steel from Hitachi. The heat treat's around 60-61 Rockwell in that core steel, and the construction is a 3-layer sandwich, and you can see it's pretty highly polished, so I'll try to be careful on the reflections here. But it's a soft iron cladding on either side of that core steel, and you can definitely see the core steel showing at the edge. You can see it's ground pretty thin at the edge based on the amount of core steel showing through, so they've got a nice thin grind at the very edge where it counts. The cladding is reactive as well as the core steel, so these are pretty reactive knives. Cladding can often be more reactive than the core steel, so you will have to keep an eye on these, clean them, dry them, just keep an eye on what's happening with the knife, and you might even want to do a preemptive patina on these, possibly with some protein and get some nice blue hues and stuff in there, but completely up to you. The weight on this particular one, and these are all going to vary knife to knife, but this one's about 152 grams or 5.4 ounces. It's right about 180 on the nose, on the tip to chin, length of the blade, which is about 7.1 inches, and the overall length on this one's about 320 millimeters. The spine thickness, these will vary, but coming out of the handle, this one's about 3.3 millimeters wide, and then it shrinks down a bit off of that, but then holds to something, 2.5 or almost 3 probably, pretty much until you about the last inch or so, and then it thins down at the very tip. And they grind these things pretty doggone thin at the tip, and the tip work really well on this whole line of knives. They've done a really nice job with the geometry. The blade height is about 49.2 millimeters, so nice kind of medium tall. And the handle is well done, good quality fit and finish, pretty smooth finish on it. Oval rosewood with the black packerwood stabilized wood ferrule, and pretty tight install on the handle as well. Circumference is just about 3 inches to 76 millimeters where the ferrule meets the main part of the handle, which is pretty standard size. And these will vary a little bit, but this one has a kind of a nice length on the neck. It's a rather thin neck, so loads of clearance for cutting board, plus a great spot to put your finger in there for a pinch grip, so it'll work really nicely in a pinch grip. Speaking of that, where's the balance point? It's pretty darn close to where my pinch grip is. So there's my finger, and there's my pinch grip. I didn't even have to move my finger, so very neutral feel. These have a stiff blade, but as I mentioned, the geometry on these is done very, very well, and they cut really well, so they cut quite good. So kind of cool because you get a blade with some mass and some spine to it and a little bit of weight to it for cutting performance, but you get really good, just general cutting performance as well. The finish, of course, is pretty highly polished. It's not completely polished, but it's actually a fairly tough finish, I found, despite the polish, which isn't always the case, which is pretty cool. And these do have, it looks to me like chiseled kanji. They're kind of small, but I think they're chiseled. They're definitely done by hand somehow, either with a machine done by hand or with a full-on chisel. But real pretty blades, and nice fit and finish on the blade. On the spine's polished and a little bit relieved, so is the choil and the neck, so very comfortable out of the box. I'd say the out-of-the-box edge is about 5 on these, but hey, they're Shidogami #1. If you want, you can get them a lot sharper than that very easily. So these are a joy to sharpen. They're thin behind the edge. There you go. Let's look at it on our cutting board. Again, these can be pretty reactive, so you will have to be prepared to deal with that appropriately, but they're pretty darn cool blades. So here's the profile. This one has a bit of a flat spot towards the back third of the blade. It kind of flows into a stop at the back on the board. And typical kind of sheep's foot design, not a ton of belly towards the tip. I can get right in there before I start digging the tip in the board. Every knife will be a little bit different, but you could do some shallow rocking. You've got a little bit of a back third flat spot for chopping. So I'd say this is kind of an all-around profile as far as Santoku knives go. Definitely got some height to it. So just a nice knife. So here you've got their polished line. This is the Nishida white #1 or Shidogami Santoku 180mm knife.